Hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope you're doing awesome. Hey, it is so much fun to hang out with so many different people, but there's one guy that's so far up the list that I was honored to have him hang out with me today. Roger Seip from Freedom Personal Development. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Dave, yourself?
Oh my gosh, I just can't wait for this. I'm hoping when
wow.
I remembered that you did stand-up comedy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if he starts going down that road, he can take the microphone over your arm.
No, no, golly. See, now there's all this pressure.
Exactly.
Now everybody's like, oh, this is going to be a funny one.
Exactly. Yep, for sure. So I'll never forget way back in probably 2008, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I was introduced to you as you were the memory guy. You know, everybody's got a guy.
Yeah.
Right.
I was.
But no one had a memory guy. You're right. So
hey, you got to meet my memory guy.
My gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to tell my friends, yeah, I got a memory guy. So if you ever need one, you just let me know. So how did you get that memory guy title? What the heck?
Well, so it's funny that you say that, because the memory guy thing was really, really strong for me in my business for a long time. And Actually, it hasn't been for the last few years.
Really?
Yeah.
Because everyone knows everybody's name. I always remember people come to me and they'd say, can this guy help me remember names? Because I can't remember names for nothing.
So we still listen, we still teach people how to improve their learning capacity. But ever since the book Train Your Brain for Success came out, I've become just more the train your brain guy than the memory guy.
All right. I'll have to change I got to change what's in my phone now, because it says the memory guy. Now it's got to be Train Your Brain for Success guy. So
you can keep that if you want to, but I mean, to answer your question directly, if you're wondering how we kind of got into this world. I had the short version is that I had actually decided when I was 13 years old that I wanted to be a professional speaker.
Okay.
My uncle was a professional speaker, and I saw him when I was, I think, in 7th grade. And I just remember going, he was talking to, it was actually in Milwaukee where you live.
Okay.
And he was talking to a group of store managers when the Grand Avenue Mall was reopening. And I remember, right. I mean, it's 1983.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the back. My mom took me to see him, and I remember standing in the back of the room, and he's talking about business and attitude and energy and customer service. And I just remember going, I don't actually understand anything that he's talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
But dude, this is awesome. I totally want to be him.
Exactly.
And, right. And then so when I was in college, I got into sales and in business, and I started doing stand-up like you mentioned for a while. And all of that was, I felt like it was kind of training for this, speaker, coach, trainer thing that I wanted to do. And it turned out to be good training. So it's 2020 right now.
Yeah.
So 24 years ago almost, my college roommate and I said, all right, let's do this thing. Let's start a company.
Sure.
And for the first 6 months, we had no idea what we were doing. Like we literally
month 7, you knew it all, right?
Well, no, but I mean, like for the first 6 months, we literally had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
To a really ridiculous, to the degree that it became our company motto. We have no idea what we're doing, so the possibilities are endless.
.com, I had a .com, and you got a website.
Right. And so, about 6 months into the existence of our so-called company at the time, we formed a partnership with a company called the Memory Training Institute.
Okay.
Which basically that partnership solved all of our business problems at the time. All of our business problems were, we wanted to be speakers, trainers, coaches, but we had no content, we had no marketing, we had no customers, we had and we had no idea where to start.
Sure.
And so by partnering with that organization, it sort of gave us all of those things.
Okay.
And we started, this is ultimately how you and I met.
Yeah.
10 years after that.
Okay.
12 years after that.
Yeah.
We spent the first about decade of our company. We taught, that's what we did, is we taught accelerated learning and memory training workshops. That was about 90% of our business.
Okay.
And that's kind of how you and I met. And look, so your question was, how did I get the memory guy title?
Yeah.
That's how I got the title.
Okay.
And then Right. When the book came, when the book Train Your Brain for Success came out, all of the other aspects of what we do about just helping business people keep their head on straight so that they go get awesome results and love their life in the process.
Sure.
Sort of took over as the majority of our business. But yeah, we still do the memory thing. I'm less of the memory guy and more of the train your brain guy. So.
Okay. Well, I remember when you used to do those in-person traveling, whatever you call them, workshops, and I would bring in like 20 of my clients back then, and they thought you were brilliant, and it was just like, man,
we had them fooled, didn't we?
My gosh. No, I just kept telling them this guy can remember like anything. There's like 10 people in the room. You go around the room, you introduce yourself, and for the rest of the event, the guy's using your name. And I'm like, I'm happy if I remember one person's name for any length of time. This guy's doing 10 at a time, and he could probably do more, and people wouldn't believe me. Yeah. So I'm like, you got to come and check this out. It was like a kind of like a sideshow. But it was so helpful from a business perspective that it was, you can do card tricks and it's like, okay, big deal. But this was like something that was just it just enamored me. So I always have been so.
Well, and I know that you became a really good student of that type of learning, and it really had a huge impact for you.
Yes.
And, we've got hundreds of thousands of clients that would have the same story. And I will say this, it is amazing to me. It's the reason why I'm still in this business that you and I are a part of.
Sure.
Because it really is wonderful and inspiring. It's really cool to me what a human being can do with their brain and with their mind if they just understand how to tune it up correctly, right? Like the ability to, as a micro example, the ability to meet somebody and 5 seconds later actually still remember their name instead of like all the way up to like learning how to think in a way that triples your income from one year to the next, or allows you to just be able to sleep at night without anxiety. Like it's like that's where it all starts.
Wow.
And so I love the fact that I get to be in a business where we help people tune up that kind of creative capacity of their mind to go get whatever results they're looking to get.
Yeah.
Even if they thought those results might have been impossible at one time, and then also love their life in the process. So sorry, I get a little weepy.
No,
about
I
these
love
things.
it.
I didn't mean to start rambling on you, Dave.
Please do. That's why we're here. I mean, it's so interesting because so my idea on the podcast and my focus is where the intersection of business and personal kind of meet. Because,
cool.
It's so you can be all business and like you were saying, memory, whatever, be all you can be. But then you created this other avenue and you kind of intersected where, there's a purpose for what you're doing in that business. And that's what I think is so cool. There's that self-fulfillment side, there's that peace side on the other side that, hey, we're doing this for a specific reason. So that's why I think it's so awesome.
Well, Zig Ziglar said this. I mean, may he rest in peace. Zig Ziglar was probably one of the first when I got into sales, was sort of that was back in the, late 80s, early 90s, 1980s, not 1880s, just to be clear. But like he was one of the first sort of teachers, trainers, gurus, whatever you want to call it, that I was exposed to.
Yeah.
And I just remember him talking about this in terms of sales, and I think it's business in general.
Right.
What he would say is that the most important part of the sales process is the sales person.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't think that that's limited to sales, right? I mean, our listeners tend to be business people. I mean, the most important part of a business is the business person.
Right. Exactly.
And if you don't, I know a lot of people that have great businesses and make a lot of money and are deeply, unhappy by the process by which they got there. So like, I'm honored to be on just in it, in your world,
well, thank you.
where the person is such a key part of
Sure.
the business. So let's get into it, man. What do you want?
Absolutely.
What else do you want to talk about, Dave?
Hey, my gosh, we're in it. We're in it. And I think about the people listening. And so I know that, like, again, I think of what's a simple trick? Help us with one thing. And then you can do the Men in Black pen where we forget it all anyway. But, if you can, for the people, that you just click it and everyone forgets everything. But I mean, for somebody that's listening, that, I mean, we're doing everything we can to, especially in this COVID situation, we're doing everything we can to be positive, stay focused. We're trying to keep our head above water. It's really hard, and so the last thing we need is to think about, like, our brain and how it works, or how can I use it better? I mean, my gosh, I just want to get my grocery list done, right? So what's a simple thing that you tend to help people with, and whatever, remembering something, utilizing their brain, something that really is a solid tool that we can walk away with, in this situation?
I'll tell you the big thing that I've been working on with my clients recently, and I didn't know how how time specific we wanted to talk about. I mean, as you and I are recording this, it's like we've been entrenched in this COVID thing for
8 weeks, I think they said. Right?
Coming up on it anyways. That's when it. Yeah, I mean, like, we've been here in Wisconsin. Where I live, we've been sort of under quarantine. They don't call it quarantine. It's the safer at home.
Might as well call it. Let's call it what it is.
Safer
right?
at home. It's not stay at home. Just you're safer at home.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been about 6 weeks now. So anyways, I've been working on this a lot with my clients, and it's a really simple thing right now. You said, okay, what's one thing that we can do? And what I would tell our listeners is that the single biggest thing that a person can do right now to get themselves back on track, if they're off track, or accelerate their progress. A lot of my clients are actually on a really good track.
Cool. Yep.
It's just to remember what it is you want. Get refocused on what you want to see happen. And then why you want to see that happen. This is a thing that's universal, and it's like a bedrock principle for what we do with our clients, Dave, is to help people. If you've had the opportunity to see or be aware of our second book, which came out about a year ago, it's called Master Your Mind.
Oh my gosh! No, congratulations!
Oh, you didn't even know that?
No,
yeah, I wrote it with my guy Rob Zabersky.
So,
no, that's all right. Well, you're a remedial sweat hog learner.
Yeah, we gotta have the large print, so that's taken me a while. There wasn't a lot of pictures, so
it's okay.
It takes a while.
It's okay.
Well, congrats. That's awesome.
No, well, thank you. A lot of what's talked about in the first part of that book is how your brain, especially your subconscious brain, what it really needs to know is what it really needs is a clear picture of what just what you want.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
When the biggest thing that we find creates forward pull for a business, that like attracts the right person in the right situation and the money that you need at exactly the right time. The biggest thing that starts things manifesting is simply clarity. Mentor of mine, Janet Atwood, always talks about this. She says, like, the formula for making results happen in the most elegant and effortless way. She talks about intention, attention, no tension. Intention means get a clear picture of what you intend to have happen. Put your attention on that picture, and then just go for it with and relax along the way. It's because your subconscious brain, one of the things that you would have learned from me when we did work on memory is how the language of your memory is pictures, right?
Yes.
We always, in the world of improving people's memory, we always taught people not how to memorize stuff, but how to visualize stuff, how to picturize stuff. And what we found out is that that's not just the language of your memory. That's the language of the part of your brain that makes things happen.
Okay.
So when you can simply upgrade your clarity about, hey, here's the goal that I've got. Here's the result that I want. Here's the target that I'm aiming for.
Sure.
And upgrade the clarity of your picture of just what that is, and then deepen your understanding of why you're trying to get that. It's like you sort of make the adjustments that you need without even understanding why you're doing that.
Okay.
So all of this to say, okay, I'll give you a good example of what I'm talking about here, and then we'll bring it back to the one thing that you asked me about.
Okay.
So the book that we reference, Train Your Brain for Success,
mm-hmm.
is actually my favorite example of just what clarity does for a person when you get a clear picture of
Sure.
what you want and start being less stressed out about, oh my gosh, how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens. So I had thought that book came out in 2012.
Okay.
We got but here's an interesting thing. People always ask, hey, how long did it take you to write your book? And you probably get asked this question a lot too. Like, hey, how long did it take you to write that thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, there was two answers. One answer is that, okay, when it came time to actually like sit down at my computer and bang out the manuscript,
right,
that was about a 5-week process.
Wow.
Well, but that's all I did for 5 weeks. But I think the real answer is the real answer to, okay, how long did it take to create that book, is it actually took about 11 years.
Sure, that makes sense.
And not even in the way that people think. A lot of people are like, oh, you must have to do a lot of research. That's actually not even a research heavy book. Sure. It was all about how I thought about it. I literally, Dave, I spent like 10 years having thoughts about writing a book that were positive in nature, but they just weren't very clear. They were like, someday I'd like to write a book. Maybe I should write a book. Oh, what a neat idea for a guy like me to write a book. And all of those thoughts made me feel good for a little while, but led to exactly zero progress on actually creating a book.
Right. Yep.
This is why I'm actually so sold on coaching, and why so much of our business has become about coaching, is because the first coach that I ever worked with had me do this really basic exercise around this time that you and I would probably just call a vision statement. She said, hey, just get out, sit down with yourself and take as much time as you need, and just write out a picture of where you see yourself a few years down the road, and make it as specific and clear as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Dave, that I wrote in there, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff about, oh, my business is this big and we make this much money and we impact people in this way. Right. One of the things that I wrote in that vision statement, it was one sentence. It said, I've written a book. I'm a best-selling author.
Wow.
And when I wrote that, this is a true story. When I wrote that, I looked at it and I felt a little different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that just feels different.
Sure.
And then when I was sort of like reviewing my homework with my coach, I was talking to her about this one sentence in my vision statement. I said, like, what do you think about this whole thing about writing a book? And she was, she was super tactful, 10 years of like, quote unquote, trying and thinking about writing a book.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, I said, what do you think about this? I've written a book. I'm a best-selling author. She goes, well, Roger, I don't want to say that you're overdue.
Nice.
But
maybe
you're definitely ready.
Yeah.
And really, there was this one moment, like every once in a while you get these like aha, like light bulb things where the pieces just fit. And I went, all right, I'm doing that. I'm writing a book. I have no idea. I remember going, I don't know how to do that, but I'm doing it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
The next day, 24 hours later, I get an email totally out of the blue from one of the bigger publishing companies in the world that says, hey, Roger, we've been following your work and we think we'd like to publish your book.
Oh my gosh.
True story.
Wow.
And I went,
way cool.
And I went, I looked at it, Dave, and I was like, man, that mind stuff, this work, that mind shit works, dude. Like, pardon the language, but that's what that was the thought that I had. And that's really where it went from there. So all this to say, bringing it back to our listeners, like I love telling my story.
Sure.
because it's a fun story to tell.
For sure.
But for those of you who are listening to this, now more than ever, I'm finding out that the people who can upgrade their clarity and literally just remember, okay, what am I trying to move towards?
Sure. Yep.
It's more powerful now than it was when I was able to, conjure up a book deal.
Sure.
Because what happened, and I can say this from personal experience, like I got my business and my family got rocked by this whole quarantine thing as much as anybody has.
Yep.
And what I'm seeing from myself and from my clients now is that it's been so easy to just totally lose sight of what you're moving towards.
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well, and it gets really fuzzy really quick.
Because you're so entrenched in like, holy cow, I got to homeschool my kids.
Yeah.
Holy cow, am I going to have a job? Holy cow, I own this company. Do I have to lay everybody off? What's like the whole world is turned upside down. And so you just like very quickly totally forget about, what's the saying? It's hard to remember when you're up to your knees in alligators. It's not your knees actually, but I'll say knees. When you're up to your knees in alligators, it's hard to remember that you set out to drain the swamp.
There you go.
Right? And you're so surrounded with like boom, boom, boom that it's easy. It's just so easy to forget.
Right.
Here's what I'm trying to get in the first place. And if you can remember that, if you can upgrade your clarity about what it is that you want, it's more powerful now than it's ever been. And it's the single biggest thing that I would tell any business person who's looking for results without exponentially more effort. Single biggest thing that I would tell them to do, upgrade your clarity.
Well, and to me, I wrote this down as you were talking, clarity has a ton of enemies. And so there's so many people and there's so many things that are just like fighting for that. Cause I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get done with this conversation with Roger and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get clarity like I've never got it before. Right? That's my thought. That's what's in my head. And then all of a sudden back here's going, yeah, but, right?
Well, before you even finish your own
exactly.
thought,
I'm not
you're
even
like,
done with my thought. And it's
but
like,
you got this and this and that and this question mark and that thing to do. Oh, yeah, you're right. Like, right, clarity has, I've never heard anybody say that before, Dave.
But
that's
to me,
kind of genius.
Well,
clarity has enemies.
I'm sure it's in your book. I'm sure I just didn't read it yet. But I mean, it's just one of those things that I think that thinking about it, it's especially owning a business, like you said, the question comes in like when we're in, in different coaching situations, you have these decisions that you have to make. Do I want to, make some money or do I want to add clarity to my life? Right. I mean, I don't know why we put them in buckets of either or. And
right, because they're not either or.
They're not either or, right? But in our mind, that's at least maybe me. I don't know what the rest of the listeners are thinking right now, but I'm thinking in my mind, it's like this either or. And I'm like, Roger, I really don't have time right now to add clarity to this. I think I'm pretty clear, and I always tell the story about making small little course corrections in our life. They're not these huge corrections a lot of times. So, when you take off out of Milwaukee Airport, and if you're wanting to end up in San Diego, you just keep on, they set a course, and let's just say over Iowa, the pilot says, you know what, I'm going to move this course just a little bit. We're going to just go 4 little degrees. I mean, what in the world? 4 degrees means nothing, right? It's a little course correction, but then the reality is you end up in LAX, and that is like an ugly 2.5-hour drive from LAX down to San Diego, right?
That was not your destination.
No, exactly. But you're still heading in the right. So that's where I think the more clear you can get. So now I'm kind of feeling guilty about not having clarity. Well, I wish you would have told me this ahead of time. I could have prepared and had this great idea of how clear my life is. But I got to say, I'm getting caught up probably just like a lot of other people. Like you said, what do you do with the kids or grandkids? We have grandkids, so we don't have the kids around.
What?
Yeah, I got 4 grandkids. Isn't that crazy?
Grandkids?
Yes, 4 of them.
Dude, you're like I have to say this. I meant to say this before we started recording.
Go ahead.
I mean, I've known you. How long have you and I known each other? 12 years?
It was 2006, I think, 7.
Sounds okay.
There,
so 12, 14 years now?
Yeah.
No joke, dude. You are like aging in reverse, man.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh.
It's probably the hair.
It is.
It's probably the hair that's doing it for you.
Yeah. Well, and when you don't get a cut for COVID, this is what happens. So it's normally as short as yours. So
I can't grow. I've been trying to grow it out for COVID, but this is about as good as it gets for me.
Well, so I have another question, because you said something about remember what you want to see happen. Mm-hmm. But then you said another piece about the why piece, why you want that. So, I always when I coach people, we use that iceberg visual a lot, in that you're seeing a little chunk of the ice above the water, and then there's the big chunk underneath. It's kind of the why behind the what, so to speak.
Totally.
So in your situation, and in either one of your books, I mean, how do you address, what if you're not clear on what your why is? I mean, what if you're going through the motions in whatever? Because let's just be real, right? A lot of times we just go through some motions. We have very little self-awareness. We have very little understanding of our, impact on other people. We just go.
You're just grinding.
So where does the why come? I mean, what if you haven't thought of that? How do you address that? How do you find that why?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and it's so important, because your analogy of the iceberg, where you've got this little tiny piece that you see, and then this gigantic thing that has all this like force behind it that you just don't even see.
Right.
That's actually a really close representation of how your brain operates. Like if you think about your conscious brain versus your subconscious brain.
Okay.
It's almost exact, except it's actually even more exaggerated.
Okay.
There's a great book that we teach about in our workshops called The Ant and the Elephant that makes this analogy about how your conscious brain, the part that you're aware of, versus your subconscious brain that you don't even, like, you're not even aware of what it's doing.
Sure.
It's literally like an ant who's being carried around by an elephant.
Gotcha. Okay.
Elephant being the subconscious part of your brain.
Gotcha. Okay.
And here's the thing about that. So I'll reiterate the importance of this. Your subconscious brain is literally the part of your brain that gets you wherever you end up. Like it's the part of your brain that makes everything happen in your life. Like literally everything from you manifesting a record-breaking year of sales all the way down to like making your heart beat and digesting your food.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all of that, right?
Yep.
And all it needs to know, like that part of your brain, the deepest parts of you, actually have a pretty good instinctive feel for how to get you from where you are to where you want to get, as long as you have a clear picture of where it is that you're trying to get. And then 2, you have a fairly strong connection to why you've chosen that as your end destination.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't understand this. And the reason that they don't have a why is you nailed it in your question. They've really never thought about it.
Right.
And we've never thought about it because, well, we feel like we always feel like there's something else to do. Like figuring out your why basically just takes some time working on it, thinking about it. And I would tell you, I mean, I'm a little biased because as a coach, I mean, I would tell you that it's usually invaluable to actually hire some type of a coach to ask you the right questions and make you take the time to think about this.
Yep.
But it literally is just a matter of asking yourself the question, okay, why is that important to me?
Okay.
And most people, we do, man, we resist taking the time to add, because there's always something that we feel guilty about not doing in that moment. Oh, I should be making calls. I should be running a meeting. I should be doing the dishes, for God's sake.
There's no wrong answer to that question, right, Roger?
There is.
Because
this is the
there's
other
like
thing
a
that,
yes, right? It's almost like, oh my gosh, what if I get the answer wrong? You know, I mean, I don't want to, you know,
totally.
let's not even go there. It's better not to go there, right?
This is the other thing that people get stuck on in this.
Yeah.
Number one, we feel guilty about taking the time to even think about the question,
Yeah.
because it is going to take you, it's not a 5-minute question.
Yeah. Right.
Like why are you here on this earth, and why do you do what you do, and why are these your goals? It's not a 5-minute question. It deserves some time to think about it. But yeah, the other thing that gets people stuck, Dave, is that they're worried that they're going to get the wrong answer. Like they go, well, I really want to do this because it's going to feel good, but that they feel like that's not right. Their boss wouldn't like that answer.
Sure.
They feel like it's not a sexy enough answer.
Right. Yep.
They feel like they can't post it on Facebook. And so that must be the, when it comes to why you want things that you want, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. It doesn't matter what your answer is.
Right.
But it matters a lot that you have an answer.
Okay. Well, and that's where, again, it's easier not to think. Totally. And I run into that when I coach people and I ask the question to somebody on the team, hey, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, that's like a mind blowing, like, oh my gosh, I never thought of it. And it's just like, I mean, you see it, right? Their head just expands and it hurts and it's like sweat dribbles down. It's like, I don't mean it to be that complicated.
They become like Scooby. They go, do they get like all Scooby-Doo? Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
They become Scooby.
Like, I don't even want to answer that. I don't even want to go there. You know, why are you doing this to me? You know, it's really kind of painful, but, you know, and I totally get it, but it's also then if you're not going to invest that time and energy, then I tell people, if you're not going to invest the time and energy, don't get mad or don't be upset or frustrated about where you are, because you're kind of where you are because you're not willing to, you know, invest that time. And so
I would bet that you see this, that when you're working with a team, that the leader of the team, if it's the owner of the company or the head of the department, like the person and especially if that person is getting great results and kind of like digging their life at the same time.
Right.
If you ask them that question, they have an answer.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep. Oh,
right.
It's crystal clear.
It's crystal clear.
Some of them know the address of the street they're going to live on in the Bahamas. I mean, they are got it dialed in, right?
Some of them are a little like, I've met some people who are like, yo, you've thought about that a little too much, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like you ask leaders,
yeah,
you know, your top producer in the sales organization, the person that owns the company, the whoever you would consider the head, the you know, the leader.
Sure.
That individual, yeah, they'll have different answers.
Yep.
But they'll have an answer, and they're connected to, you know, they're clear about what they want, you know, in the bigger picture beyond like Saturday.
Right. Yeah.
And then, and they can probably at least tell you why they want that thing.
Right.
And then they also probably don't care what you think about their why.
Right. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
If you're like, that's a stupid why, they'll be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's mine.
Yeah. And the funny thing is the people that are in tune with it would never even say, my gosh, that's really stupid. I mean, that's awesome. Whatever your thing is, it's like, my gosh, that's awesome, right?
You have a why.
I'm totally envious of people like that have a huge why, right? Because it's Dave, like, man, how'd you get that? Did you eat something? I mean, was there like a pill you took, or you know, how did
What's
you
your
make
secret?
That happen, right?
Yeah, no one's ever said that. That's true. That's true. You're wise, man. You must have grandkids.
Yeah, 4 of them. Hey, I learned a lot from you. That's why I'm wise. So that's why I'm honored to be hanging out with you. So
you know, it is true. Like people have this thing in their head about, oh, my what and my what, my what do I want and my why do I want that isn't going to be good enough.
Right.
Which prevents you from going there in the first place.
Yep.
And truthfully, that whole story about, okay, what I want, it won't be good enough. I would challenge anybody on that is almost certainly nothing more than a story that they've made up in their head.
Right. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. And that makes me want to transition to one more thing before we start to head in for a landing,
Yeah, I guess we
about the
probably need to do that.
attitude of this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
when you think about attitude, I mean, I do a lot of soft skill training with
Yep.
groups and with, sales professionals and different, organizations, because I think that communication and listening skills, all that stuff that we would label soft skills, is kind of so assumed, right? It's just assumed that you know how to communicate. And it's so far from the truth, when you actually
Mm-hmm.
get into the, a team type of dynamics and you watch and you just mess that up. But I think that the attitude really seems to be, if you walk in with the positive, or I shouldn't say positive, I want to say right attitude. If you walk in with the right attitude,
Mm-hmm.
you're much higher likelihood, or you have a much higher likelihood of success. So
For
how
sure.
does attitude play into your brain success in either one of your books?
Well, I mean, it's a little cliche to say that attitude is everything,
Right.
but it really is.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to look at the definition of, if you want to look at like the dictionary definition of the word attitude, which is actually something that we teach on.
Okay.
It's literally about how, there's a lot of different, if you look at like the astronomical, there's a thing in astronomy about planets' attitudes towards each other, and it just means how. Yeah, I know. I thought that was cool when I learned that.
Okay,
That's what they call it,
that before.
and it's basically just how they relate to each other, how they're positioned versus one of it. And so, in a person's life, all that really means is all that a person's attitude is it's how they choose to view their world.
Okay,
and it is a matter of how you look at things.
Yeah.
And it's very much a matter of choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little cliche for, two dudes like us to sit here on this call and go, hey, your attitude is important for your success. Yeah. But I'll tell you, you probably see this. If you ask your leaders, your successful salespeople, your top producers, the happy ones.
Yep.
They'll tell you that, yeah, attitude it's not just important. Like, it's the single most important success factor in business.
Yep.
And you can, what I would say is that how a person makes that choice about what they want to see and how they want to view the world.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm seeing this dichotomy, and all my clients are too. Like my clients tend to be people who either lead sales organizations or coach sales organizations, or, lead teams that support them in their own, business building efforts.
Yeah.
And it's really, really clear that the people who are working on, okay, how do you see things and how am I just bringing my best energy to the day?
Yeah.
In many places, they're actually doing extraordinarily well right now.
Yeah.
And then
that's awesome.
You can have, and then you can have somebody who's literally in the exact same business right down the street. I know people who are physically in this situation.
Sure.
A lot of my clients are in the insurance business.
Okay.
Right now, and I've literally got people who they work for the same they're in the same company.
Wow.
And less than a mile apart from each other.
Sure.
In their agencies. And one person is like, okay, I see the opportunity here. Yeah. I see where right now everybody's home and everybody picks up the phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, what do I want to accomplish with this? Why do I want to accomplish? And let's get after it.
Sure.
And they're literally I've got a number of clients who April that we just finished was their best month ever.
Nice.
A record-breaking month. And then less than a mile away, there's another person, same company, same business, who's going, I don't know, like the sky's falling and nothing's good, and nobody wants to do anything. And you know what? They're right. Right. For them. And they're just getting and they're just having a rough go of it. It's mindset. I think that now people like to talk about mindset where everybody used to talk about attitude, they now tend to use the word mindset more,
Sure.
I think, but they're fundamentally the same thing.
Sure.
And it really is. It's the most foundational thing. So anything that our listeners can do to elevate that and get that, just how are you thinking about things on track?
That's awesome.
It's really worth its weight in gold right now.
Yeah. And
did I answer your question?
Yeah, totally. And I mean,
good.
For me, I made a little change in my vocabulary. I don't even remember when it was, but I remember the situation. And I was, back in my old company, we sold construction products before I sold that. And it was like a beautiful Saturday morning, and I'm driving down to a trade show to spend the Saturday inside when I totally don't want to be there. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? And so my mind, I'm just like talking myself out of like going, and I own the company. So it was like, if anybody could say, hey, so-and-so cover for me, right? But it was this thought process. So I kept saying, I have to go. And and something dawned on me and said, why don't you change that to I get to go?
This is something, that's actually one of the things it's possible that you learned that.
I might have got that from you. Totally
that
possible.
one you may have gotten from me. I've taught that to a lot of people, and it's so true. Please,
my gosh. Yeah.
You're preaching here, man. Talk to me.
No,
what happened? What happened then?
It was just amazing, because then it was just like, man, you start thinking. And then once your mind, it's almost like you opened up. It was like a lock. You unlocked the potential and thought, what really could happen here today? And then all of a sudden it just got to a spot where it was like, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh my gosh, I parked the car and ran in there and I was just like, this was like the best day ever. But I remember that fundamental attitude shift,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when we talk about goals with my clients, or when I'm training or speaking, I talk about financial goals, like a sales goal, a money goal, a dollar goal. Talk about behavioral goal, and I've been learning to talk about attitudinal goals and really start to create some attitude goals. And when I talk to people, they're like, my gosh, just like that. They're like, wow, I never thought of that. So then you encourage people to have a goal, an attitude goal. I don't care what it is, whatever it is totally fine. But it allows us to kind of think a little bit, we're not looking at end results. We're looking at the path to get to that result. At least if I'm going to go there, if I'm going to do a behavior, or if I'm going to have a financial goal, I want to at least have an enjoyable time on the way there. And so.
Well, and I'll go back to what you said about your trip to the trade show.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me how changing one little word in a sentence makes such a difference. And that's a big like linguistic thing and that's one that anybody can do anytime you find yourself going, well, I have to, or I'm supposed to, or any version of I have to do X.
Yep, exactly.
I would tell our listeners, just anytime you catch yourself having a thought like that, just take a second.
Yep.
And just switch that around and go, no, you know what? I don't have to.
Right.
I get to.
Yep.
And just see how that feels. It always creates just a whole, it's a whole different attitude. It's a whole different way of like, you see things differently and you feel better immediately.
Right.
And that's really a major key to going and making the best results possible actually happen.
Totally cool.
Yeah.
So I got one question for you as we land.
Sure. I know we need to get this done.
No, I could sit here and do this all night. My question to you is, what's one thing that not a lot of people know about you?
Oh.
Yeah.
I was the 8th grade spelling bee champion. It's
Congratulations.
It's true.
Sorry, I'm not laughing like you didn't earn it. It just wasn't where I was thinking.
It is. I was the 8th grade spelling bee champion.
Oh my gosh. And where was this, around Madison?
Yeah, Brown Deer.
Oh my gosh, did you grow up in Milwaukee area, obviously?
I did. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. I grew up in Brown Deer, and I moved here to Madison 1988.
Oh my gosh.
To go to college, and then I liked it so much that I decided to stay.
Holy cow. So you were the 8th grade spelling champ at Brown
Yes.
Deer. Wow.
Yes.
So, well, if you are listening and you lost to Roger that year, I'm really sorry.
That would be the most obscure reference ever. Like,
could you imagine?
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. If anybody listening to this podcast
yes.
can tell me that they competed against me,
all right, free
anywhere in Wisconsin,
there you go.
In 1984 in the spelling bee, and I beat them.
Yeah.
If they can prove it.
Oh, how are they gonna prove it?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, right.
I mean, I'm not. Well, I'll give you a free copy of each one of my books.
How cool is that?
But you have to be able to prove it. I don't know
that's the proof part is the problem. So, hey, so if somebody was in 8th grade and they did have want to talk to you, what's
or if they just needed some coaching?
Yeah, exactly. Or they want to reach out, learn more about, Freedom Personal Development. They want to learn more about your books. I'm assuming both books are on Amazon, correct?
Yep. Awesome. Both books are on Amazon. Train Your Brain for Success is on Audible. Master Your Mind we're working on getting that one on Audible. It takes much longer than you might think.
Yeah.
And if they want, if our listeners want to get in touch with me directly, check out our website, which is freedompersonaldevelopment.com.
Perfect.
And if you just want, feel free to send me an email. It's roger@deliverfreedom.com.
Awesome.
Certainly, I'd love to talk to him.
That is so cool. Well, again, I am honored to hang out with you. It's been
likewise
way too long, and thank you so much for the advice. I hope that the listeners are able to walk away. I took notes, so like I said, I'm going to be really honed in on this. I might have to call you for some coaching because I know that it's so easy to just get lost in everything, especially now what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so, clarity is crucial right now. So if anybody listening is struggling with it, Roger's an awesome guy. I'm assuming just because you're Madison, you probably have clients all over the country now.
Over the country. Yep.
With the ability to do Zoom calls and stuff like that. So
yeah, we got clients. We literally have coaching clients from Seattle to Miami and everywhere in between.
Nice. That is great. Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much, Roger. I appreciate it. And for anybody listening, check out the show notes. Check out whatever you need from us. We'll be happy to help in any way we can. And again, I appreciate Roger's time. And with that, I will say, make sure and train your brain for success. And thanks again, Roger, and take care.
Be good, Dave.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.